Okay, so I'm here to start my presentation on influential women's history. When I was asked to do this presentation, I was very excited, and I felt like the most difficult thing was actually choosing, women to go over in just 10 minutes, and they didn't even let me choose my mom. So to narrow it down, because of course we got our Marie Curies, we've got our Elizabeth the Great, I've narrowed it down to about a dozen American women from about the last century. So let me go ahead and go through that. So the first person I chose was Susan B. Anthony. And so I chose Susan B. Anthony because, as you will see in the 12th slide, this was a very important woman because I do in fact enjoy the ability to vote. And so Susan B. Anthony, for that reason, has a little bit of a soft spot in my heart. And, you know, she is considered the founder of the women's suffrage movement. The next person I chose, I honestly hadn't heard of before I was asked to do this presentation, and I'm very glad I've heard of her now. It is Elizabeth Blackwell. She's actually the first physician considered the first woman to receive a medical degree in the United States. And I chose her because she greatly contributed to the nursing aid during the Civil War. So I always thought that was fascinating. And so definitely, I have a doctor's appointment later today. I thank women everywhere, women doctors everywhere. The next person I chose, I would like to argue many of you have heard of Eleanor Roosevelt. She is actually, I consider a great first lady, and many do as well, because she's actually technically the longest serving first lady in the United States at this time. And she also, it took a very pivotal role in her husband's career. She helped do some of his speeches after he had become a little bit ill. And so she also did not stop there. She has, she's done conferences on her own. She wrote a daily newspaper column, a monthly magazine column. So Eleanor Roosevelt definitely helped to shape some of America's culture at the time when she was First Lady. The next person I chose was Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart, I chose to kind of give a shout out to, SMA's connection in the aviation space industry as well. She's the first person to fly across the Atlantic Ocean twice by herself. Sorry, she also did it for the first time by herself, and then she's also the first woman to have done it twice. She's also the first woman to fly nonstop coast to coast across the US in a private jet by herself. I would be intimidated to fly on a coach flight by myself across the United States. So, definitely a brave woman who has helped pioneer for others. And so I had to choose her. The next person I chose was Katharine Hepburn. Now, honestly, I haven't seen as many Katharine Hepburn movies as I could have, but I had to choose Katharine Hepburn because she is actually one of the best known actresses of American time. She is actually the woman who has won the most Academy Awards for female actress. So I thought it was very important to choose her. Of course, I have to give a little bit of a shout out to others, as well as Shirley Temple, who became a diplomat, Audrey Hepburn, who also was a diplomat after her actress times. I just chose Katharine because of her large spanning career. So trust me, I'm sure you have influential actresses of your own. The next person I chose was Julia Child. Julia Child has been, is known for really bringing French cuisine to the U.S. Her show, The French Chef, has won multiple Emmy Awards, as well as her book has won multiple the Peabody Awards. So I chose, definitely well known for French cuisine, though she was an American woman, an American TV personality. The next time you're enjoying a delicious tart, you might want to credit Julia Child. The next woman I chose was Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks is someone I didn't have to research, is someone I knew I was going to choose off of the top of my head and she's not only known as a, of somebody who has done a lot for women and emphasis and gave women a role and is kind of known as the mother of the civil rights movement. So she's known for not only women's rights, but also the civil rights movement. She has actually received, which I thought was so impressive, the NAACP's highest honor. She's a part of the Women's, Hall of Fame, and she's considered the mother of the modern civil rights movement. So I was honored to include her in this. The next woman I chose was Sandra Day O'Connor. She is actually the first woman to serve on the Supreme Court, and that is, the highest court in the United States. So very important role. And she was awarded just a couple of years ago, actually, because she served from 1981 to 2006. So a couple of years after that, in 2009, she was actually awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama. And so she was actually, so definitely another first here. I felt like I had to include. Kind of somebody else that I felt the need to include was Gloria Steinem. And in my research, I have to admit, this is another woman that I hadn't necessarily heard of before, which I feel like I should have. She's, considered we had to have the mother of the suffrage movement. So we also have kind of the mother of the feminist movement, as you would say. So Gloria Steinem, I really liked researching her. She seems to have had a wonderful career. She's also done journalism, founded women's magazines to, bring a little bit more literature out. And she also worked for New York Magazine. And so seemed like a very influential person. Sally Ride I told this dorky story about 3 or 4 times while I was funding this presentation, but Sally Ride is special to me because when I was in middle school, I got to meet Sally Ride. So she gave a presentation. I was one of the, little girls who was so happy to meet the first woman astronaut. And I always held that. And I remembered that. And so I definitely wanted to include her in my presentation today. So she is the first woman astronaut. She isn't technically the first woman in space that is actually given to two Russian women. So she was the first American woman in space. And I actually thought it was very impressive that she also was the first person to research the Columbia and Space Challenger tragedies. The next person I chose, I would like to argue many of you have heard of. I mean, who has not heard of the great Oprah Winfrey? And I would like to say I have definitely seen an Oprah show or two. But I didn't choose Oprah just because she's a great television host, which she obviously is. I actually chose her for her philanthropy. She's known as a great philanthropist. I wanted to choose her because of her emphasis on women's education, because she has also done a lot of great work for women's education in the African continent. She did open a school there and just, doing a lot for women. And she definitely has a great woman following. So I included Oprah today. Now, this is actually the final person I chose, but who wouldn't choose the first female vice president of the United States? When I started this presentation, I mentioned that the first slide is related to the last, and that is because without Susan B. Anthony, we wouldn't have Kamala Harris, and that's what I think is the beautiful thing here. These women are influential because they've paved the way for other women who are going to be able to do more after them. I would like to say I had to conclude Kamala Harris because I would love to see the next little girl who is actually going to be president. But anyways, so I had to just, before I get too women friendly, I just had to start there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but Kamala Harris is also a great influence to me. And honestly, I enjoyed watching her speech. And so that is kind of my conclusion on the dozen women that were influential to me. But I do want to give you, kind of leave you with one more thing. And thank you for listening, by the way, to the 12 that were once again influential to me. I'm sure you would all have an entirely different list. And there, once again, there's so many women that just didn't make it. I want to end with a little bit of information on our shirts today. So if you notice, we are all wearing these beautiful, colorful shirts. They're actually from Old Navy, and they were actually designed by Jade Purple Brown. So she's a New York artist and designer. And she did it to celebrate not only the power of women, but the significance of women coming together to make amazing things happen. And that is what I love to see. And that's what this presentation is about. And I would like to argue that SMA allows women to do great things as I'm sitting here right here. So I'm going to hand it back over to Maureen and Melissa, who are absolutely amazing to work with.
Aw, Susanna, thank you. That was awesome. And I really enjoyed the list of women that you picked. And I'm not sure out of that list, if I had to choose a favorite, I'd probably say Julia Child because I love to cook. And also, of course, Oprah because we're hosting.
Oprah, of course, but I mean, Kamala Harris, come on. That's
yeah.
awesome.
So great job.